Nightreign can be complicated, and with the newly added Forsaken Hollows DLC, the game introduced a lot of new features and locations that can actively hinder your progression. On top of that, the Shifting Earth event being added to the Deep of Night pool has made consistent wins much harder to achieve, even for experienced players. So in this video, we're going to rank every single map location in Nightreign, including DLC, to help you make better routing decisions in every game. Before we start, just a quick disclaimer, these locations are ranked based on their overall priority and usefulness, not purely on loot content. And with that out of the way, let's get into the list. So starting off, we're going to churches, and they are absolutely S tier. Churches are essential for every single character in the game. Regardless of your class, build, or route, churches are something you always want to prioritize. They're fast to clear, extremely consistent, and provide value throughout the entire run. Skipping churches almost never makes sense. Moving up to great churches, and they are A tier for me. Great churches are very important for getting a run going and are usually one of the first locations you'll visit. They're excellent for reaching level 3 early and securing your first uncommon weapons, which helps stabilize the early game. Bosses in great churches only drop weapons, which makes them very reliable early on. There's also a chest with a potential stone sword key, and sacred seals are completely guaranteed, adding even more consistency. In terms of variants, the fire version is the best for clear speed, the holy variant relies much more on AoE damage, while the golem and mausoleum knight variants tend to favor physical damage builds. Great churches are also one of the best locations to bait out night invaders. Moving up to forts, and they are A tier as well. Forts come in two main variants, one where the front gate is already open and another where you need to enter from underneath. Functionally, they're very similar to great churches, but they're slower to navigate overall. Night invaders are harder to fight inside forts as well, but there are several advantages that keep them in A tier. Forts always have a guaranteed merchant and anvil, which adds a lot of flexibility to your run. There's also a potential stone sword key here. The bosses are generally easier than those found in great churches, but the slower clear time balances that out. Forts are especially good for finding staves and scarabs, and the guaranteed merchant makes them particularly valuable for spell-based classes like the Scholar. Because of that flexibility, Forts edges out of B tier and stay firmly in A tier. Then moving up to main encampments, and they are B tiers. Main encampments are very inconsistent and can either be extremely fast or painfully slow depending on the variant. They don't wield a lot of runes overall, which limits their value. That said, some of the variants are much better than others. The best ones to look out for are the Flame Chariots, the Leonine Misbegotten, Elder Lion, and the Frenzy Troll. Main encampments also have a guaranteed merchant, which helps justify stopping by when they're conventionally placed. Then moving up to ruins, and they are going to C tier. Ruins are highly situational and often awkward to navigate due to uneven ground elevation. Their overall value depends heavily on the specific variant. If you're choosing to do ruins, you should be looking specifically for status effects versions. The bleed variant is usually the best option, largely because of the large blob enemies that can drop high rarity loot. Outside of those cases, ruins are generally skippable. Then moving up to the new locations, we are introducing Marshes, and sadly they are also C tier for me. Marshes are harder to justify in most runs. They're more difficult to reach due to terrain elevation, often forcing you to search for openings in the walls just to enter. Movement inside the marsh itself is slow unless your character has mobility tech enabled, and the run down to the boss is fairly long. On top of that, marshes don't wield many runes. They do, however, have a guaranteed sacred seal spot, which gives them some baseline value. The Rot Marsh variant is still decent for characters like Aranai and Scholar, but overall marshes remain inefficient compared to other options. Moving up to Blacksmith Village, and they are also a new addition to the Forsaken Hollows, and they are going into B tier. Blacksmith Village can be confusing to navigate, and the bosses are often spread out across the area. However, it's still faster to clear than marshes in most cases. And on top of that, there's a guaranteed merchant here, and the current skill power meta benefits heavily from these locations, which keeps Blacksmith Village solidly in B tier. Moving up to Evergaols, and although they're not meta anymore, they are still A tier. Evergaols are still a very good source of runes and passive buffs, although they've become more unpredictable and unreliable in Deep of Night. Their value can fluctuate depending on timing and modifiers. They usually appear alongside a great church or a fort, which makes them easy to integrate into a route, and with the right Evergaol relic, these can easily become S tier locations, but even without that, they remain strong A tier options. Moving up to mines, and it's our first inclusion in the D tier. Mines are only worth doing for very specific starting weapon strategies, such as the one I cover in my Executor guide, which is linked in the description by the way. And they have really low rune yields, and the boss only drops either a smithing 2 or a weapon. In most runs, they're really not worth it. Moving up to the castle, that's our very big location of the list, and they are absolutely S tier. The castle is one of the best locations on the entire map. You probably know this already. It offers some of the highest rune and passive gains available. You're also guaranteed a legendary drop from the top boss and a guaranteed talisman after defeating the basement boss. There's also a guaranteed merchant, potential stone sword key after the basement, and consistently high rarity loot throughout the area. On top of that, the castle's central position on the map makes it extremely easy to route into almost any run. Then moving up to rises, and rises are going to sit in B tier. Rises are situational, but once you learn the patterns, they're extremely fast to clear. They're primarily designed for spellcasters, but they can still provide useful physical damage upgrades as well if you're playing a melee character. If your party includes one or more dedicated spellcasters, then rises can easily become an S tier location. Otherwise, I think they should remain a solid B tier option. Moving up to the Township, and Township is also going on to B tier. A Township is a rare spawn, but it can be very strong in the right situation. It contains the best merchant on the regular map and offers guaranteed best in slot talismans for melee characters. You can also purchase a stone sword key here for 6,000 runes. The downside is that spending too many runes early can seriously hurt your level progression, so Township is only worth prioritizing if you already have an excess runes to spend. Moving up to the DLC locations, and this is what you guys been waiting for. Let's kick things off with the temple, and the temple is absolutely an S tier location. The temple offers some of the best loot and rune yield in the entire game, along with a powerful passive buff if you fully clear all 3 floors. The main downside here is that it's a massive time sink, especially if you get the variation where the enemies regain HP, or if you get really big damage sponges like the Tree Spirit. Even so, temples should be one of your main priorities on day 2 due to how much value they provide. Moving up to crystals, and they are absolutely as essential as churches. They are essentially mandatory when dealing with the Forsaken Hollows Shifting Earth event. In solo play, you need to break 3 crystals, while in duos and trios, they require 4. Breaking them grants a very strong passive, removes the crystal curse, and unlocks the largest spirit spring in the game, which allows you to reach almost any location on the map. The final 2 locations are the Eastern and the Western Underground Forts, and starting with the Eastern Underground Fort, it is absolutely a S tier location, and let me tell you why. The Eastern Underground Fort is one of the best boss drop farming locations in the entire game, bar none. You can gain up to 7 buffs in under 5 minutes if you clear it efficiently. It has a guaranteed merchant, a guaranteed talisman drop, and multiple opportunities for legendary items. If you want to learn the most rune and buff efficient way to clear this location, you can check out my advanced Forsaken Hollows routing video linked in the description below. And last but not least, the Western Underground Fort, which is going to sit comfortably here at A tier. The Western Underground Fort is still a very strong location, but it's not quite as time efficient as the Eastern version. It does, however, have a guaranteed merchant, a guaranteed church, and consistent legendary drops. Plus, it also connects directly into the temple, making it the perfect day 2 end of day option. And that is my complete Nightreign location tier list, including all the Forsaken Hollows content. If this helped you improve your routing or get more consistent wins, consider leaving a like, and also let me know in the comments below what you would change about my list and which locations you agree or disagree with. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.